entrepreneurship and innovation? Is there anybody here? No. Okay. Now, research methods. Research methods is very integral to your academic progress. Research methods are a prerequisite when you want to progress with the MSc to do, in particular, PhD. Fortunately, at the School of Business, we have programs up to the PhD level for all the programs that we are running. Now, but for you to be able to move straight from the MSc to do PhD with the MSc, then you must get a minimum of B+ in research methods. Because PhD is about research. You spend a minimum of 3 years and up to 4 years, and the main thing you do is research. So to be able to do that, you must have adequate understanding of the research process and the elements of research. And that is why research methods is critical. If you don't get B+ in research methods and you still want to advance to do your PhD, then you must do top-up at the MPhil level. The top-up is meant to now beef your capacity up in research methods so that you will be adequately prepared. Otherwise, if you don't do that, if they admit you onto the PhD program, you will stay there forever, which we don't want. No supervisor wants the student to be with them forever, because we want you to go so that new ones can come. So that should be taken note of. So today we are just going to do an introductory lecture. And the first lecture is on the nature and philosophy of management research. The nature and philosophy of management research. Now, if you are doing finance, accounting, HR, procurement, entrepreneurship, you name it, all of that in the business school is called management education. Okay? Management or management science. Okay? So a research conducted at the business school is generally classified under management research. Some call it business research. Okay? So we may be using business research and management research interchangeably. So we want to discuss in the main for today the nature of management research. Then tomorrow we can look at the philosophy part. Okay? The time would not be enough for us to do both the nature and the philosophy, but we'll try and see what we can achieve by this. Later on, I'll share the course outline with you. Okay? We have a course outline, what we want to do. I will share with you the course outline. In other words, what we are supposed to do for the period that we'll be meeting, the 10 times that we'll be meeting in separate lectures, what we would accomplish. Now, what do we hope to achieve today? By the end of the lecture, you should be able to outline the purpose and distinct focus of management research. In other words, you must understand the characteristics of management research, the features of business research, and why we have to conduct management research. You should also be able to tell whether the research project you are doing falls under basic research or applied research. We have two different categories of research. We have basic research and we have applied research. I'll tell you the difference in due course. Basic research and then applied research. Then you should also be able to understand the stages that you must complete as part of the research process. We have what we call the research process, which tells you what steps, what stages you must scale in order that research will be conducted in a very competent manner. So I would take you through the stages of research. But you need to understand some technologies that are used when it comes to research methods. Mainly, first of all, to look at the difference between methods and methodology. Method is under methodology. Method is just one of the sections of methodology, because the method would basically speak to the techniques for data collection. Okay? How are you collecting the data? You using questionnaires? Are you using interview guides? Are you using key informants? Are you interviewing everybody? Or you are sampling a few to interview? Okay? That is what we call methods, procedure or techniques that are used in collecting data or obtaining data. Then we have research methodology, which goes beyond data collection, but it includes, among others, research conceptualization, research design, research theorization, as well as research methods. Okay? So the whole theory that surrounds the conduct of research is what we call research methodology. So methodology is broader than what? Method. Method concerns is that mainly with how you can obtain data for your research purposes. But in a number of cases, sometimes we use them interchangeably. You can get to a point where a researcher will say that I'm using, this is my research method. But then under the method, you have data collection, you have sampling, you have data analysis procedures, all outlined under that. Now, if I ask you what is research, what would you say? What do you understand by research? Yes, madam. So she says research means what? To investigate into something. Investigate into something. What do you say is research? From your perspective, what is research? So when we talk about research, it is a very deep concept, because research is not an accidental process. It is a deliberately planned activity that is executed in a systematic manner in terms of problem definition, hypothesis setting, hypothesis testing, data collection, data analysis, data interpretation, and dissemination of results. So in all these elements that I have mentioned, the process has to be systematic. In other words, it is well planned, following some defined steps. That's what we mean by systematic. So it is not based on an accident. It is not based on chance. It's not as you go. It is planned, a planned process. And that is why every research process will usually start with what we call a research proposal. The proposal is the first step to defining the direction as well as the territories that the research will cover. Okay? So research has to be distinguished from a mere investigation, because it's deeper than that. Okay? Like you are setting up a committee to investigate who stole the money. It's just a small aspect of research. Okay? But research goes beyond that. So that is an element of research, but research is broader than that. Okay? So that some people say that research simply means search again. Research simply means what? To search again, such that you discover something. Search again until you discover something. So, characteristics of research include systematicity when it comes to data collection. You take your time, ask questions. Where can I get data? Which is the best source to get the data from? Who qualifies to respond to the questions? Do they have the capacity? How do I get them? If I identify who qualifies, how many of them should I interview? Or I should interview all of them, okay, in that manner. The data collection. Can I just get the data from books, from publications, or I can get the data both from books and from what? Interviews. You must understand that at the data collection stage. Then it also involves a systematic analysis of the data. So data analysis itself is a project, because having collected the data, for some, they have the skills to collect the data, but they can't analyze. When they collect the data, they bring it to the desk of another person who has the expertise to what? To analyze the data. But in this enterprise that we are embarking on, you should be able to collect the data, analyze the data using appropriate models. You should also be capable of interpreting the results from the analysis in a manner that is consistent with theory and practice. Very important. And then we say that for there to be a research, then there has to be a clear purpose as to what we want to find out. There's an agenda. So the main thing that should guide the research is its purpose. They say that if the purpose of a thing is not established, then abuse is what? Inevitable. Okay? If you don't know that this is a press iron, if you don't take time, you use it as a hammer. Okay? In which case you are abusing it. The same thing can occur when it comes to research. You may end up using the wrong way to collect, wrong method for data collection, wrong method for data analysis, wrong way of interpreting the research if the purpose is not properly defined. Okay, so very important. Okay. Now, when it comes to business research, what are the key features of business research that we need to understand? Now, one of the key features or characteristics of management research is that it is transdisciplinary, or you can say it is multidisciplinary. You can imagine that businesses of all forms and in all sectors need to conduct research. You can imagine a pharmaceutical company. There's a business aspect of that company, and there's also a science aspect of that company. So as a business researcher, you must have some understanding about the science of what? The pharmaceutical process. The same thing if you are dealing with the petroleum industry. There's what? A scientific part of it. How to what? Get the oil from the ground. And then how to extract it, how to process it, how to export it, how to refine it. There's the science aspect of it, and there's also the business aspect of it. Apart from that, business research also borrows from other disciplines in order to enhance understanding. So you can borrow from sociology, can borrow from psychology, we can borrow from physics, we can borrow from chemistry, we can borrow from astronomy, you name it, in order that we can explain a particular phenomenon. We also say that if you come to business research, the focus is not so much on the theory, but also the practice as well. So there has to be an intersection between what? Theory and practice. So we say that business research must complete the vector cycle of what? Theory and practice. In other words, we are dealing with something like a circle. You move from theory to practice. The practice will also feed back into what? The theory. The theory feeds back into the practice. So it's what we call vector's circle of theory and practice. Okay, so the link is not broken. It's a continuum. So that the other feature of business research is that business research actually is meant to address problems of businesses, and they emanate actually from problems that businesses face day to day. So, but what will enhance that is a close collaboration between business and then what? Academia or researchers, so that the problems that businesses encounter daily feed into what? The research process. And some of the points will tell us some of the gaps that exist between business and then the academia. Now, when it comes to the features of business research, there are some debates that are ongoing as to what should be the main focus of knowledge production within business studies. And because of this, three main knowledge production realms have been deduced. The first one is what we call mode one knowledge creation. Mode one knowledge creation. So three modes of knowledge creation or knowledge production. Mode one, mode two, and then mode three. Mode one knowledge creation basically says that business research is meant to satisfy academic or intellectual curiosity. And for that matter, the focus is to produce what? Theories and intellectual verb rather than to what? Inform practice. Okay? So the focus is to advance fields of accounting, finance, human resource management, procurement and supply chain management, leadership and organizational development, and not to what? Produce knowledge for practice. So that's what we call mode one knowledge production. Then we have mode two knowledge production, which says that the knowledge business research must be intertwined with practice. In other words, the focus of business research is to solve problems that are within the government or within private enterprise, so that the collaboration between business researchers and then practitioners is what is going to fulfill this kind of agenda. So knowledge produced is relevant to what? Industry, is relevant to stakeholders. Okay. So generally speaking, with mode one knowledge production, this is knowledge production largely done in our universities. Okay. Such that if I am a professor at the university and I want to do research, my concern is to do research to satisfy my intellectual curiosity. Okay. I've read about some theory and I want to know whether that theory applies in the context of Ghana. That is it. Okay. That's what I'm interested in. I will not be interested in what problems are confronting Ghana Commercial Bank, National Pension Regulatory Authority. That's not my business as an academic. I do research to advance knowledge in my field. Okay, so if you ask me what's my impact so far, I'm going to tell you how I have advanced theories in finance and economics. I can't tell you so much how I've helped this bank, how I've helped this person, or I've helped this other person in terms of my knowledge spilling over, leading to the new ways of doing business. So that is the mode two knowledge for that. And here, again, mostly businesses invest in that interchange or that connection due to the profitability potential of that collaboration. So there's collaboration, all right, but that collaboration becomes viable when it is established that there's profit to be made out of the research. But there's mode three knowledge production process, where the research work, even though has very huge practical content, may not necessarily be profitable, but is necessary for the general good of society. Okay? So a research, for instance, to discover a particular vaccine during the pandemic, say COVID-19 vaccine, may not necessarily be profitable, but for the survival of the general society, such research work ends up being necessary. So that mode three knowledge creation process will basically look at how research work will move beyond satisfying profit needs of businesses to concern itself as to how we can assure survival and promote the common good of society. Okay, so three levels, take them again. Mode one, producing knowledge for theory to advance academic curiosity. Mode two, collaboration between industry, between government and then government and then researchers to produce knowledge that is industry relevant, which can promote profitability and all that. Mode three, promote research work that can, even though produce knowledge, such knowledge may not necessarily be profitable, but it can be important in terms of assuring the survival of the general well-being of society. So research works usually that are related to climate change, environmental governance, and all those things. Some of them, the firms will not immediately see the profit that is there, but they are concerned about the environment. Okay, the environment, the general society, okay, your social responsibility as an organization may be important. Okay. So those are some of the key debates. But in addition, there's a debate regarding some issue relating to relevance, whether research that we conduct is relevant to what? Practitioners. So we call that the relevance gap. And the relevance gap arises as a result of the separation between producers of knowledge and then what? The users of knowledge. The producers of knowledge are in the ivory towers in the universities. Okay? They are professors, doctors, senior scientists, and researchers that are doing their research in their corner. Then the demanders or users of knowledge are various firms, institutions, organizations, and governments that are also sitting somewhere, crafting their policies, taking their decisions, and they take their decisions without the benefit of the knowledge that is produced by what? The suppliers of that knowledge, which is academia. So that this process leads to the situation where decision making is based on intuition rather than what? Evidence. At the business level, decision is done using the experience and qualifications of the manager and the intuition of the manager rather than what? Evidence. Part of it is due to the fact that there's minimum collaboration between academia and then well of business. They are separated. Very little opportunity is created for them to interact. Okay? So we are here as UDS. We don't know the problems that the various companies that are operating internally have. We don't know their challenges, we don't know their problems, and yet we produce also tons and tons and tons of research output. Okay? So at the end of the day, if you go to the library down there, you see a lot of theses that are packed in shelves. And I can assure you that the only time that those theses will be open will be when a new student also wants to write a thesis and wants to open it and see how they can also write their own thesis. And then that new student will also write the thesis and it will also come and join the queue in that order. The findings will not be utilized, that's all. No practical value, okay? So how we can bridge that gap is to practice what we call evidence-based management. In which case, there is a close collaboration between management or business and then academia or researchers, such that academia gets to understand the problems that businesses are facing. They do research based on the identified problems, such that the findings, when they are produced, are used to inform management decision making. In which case, we are able to bridge what we call the research practice gap. So when the evidence is produced by academia based on the identified needs of businesses, then businesses are also expected to take decisions now based on the evidence, no longer based on intuition or educated guesses or experience, but based on what? Hardcore evidence. So that is what we need to take note of when it comes to some of these debates. So within this discussion, we can categorize research into about 4 main categories based on how that research is weighted in terms of the strength in theory and methodology, and then its strength in terms of practical relevance. Okay? So we can have a research that is higher in theoretical and methodological rigor, but it has low practical value. Such research is called pedantic science. A research that is high in theoretical and methodological rigor, but very low when it comes to what? Practical value. We call that research pedantic science. What do you think will be the example of pedantic science? Where can we find it? Where can we find pedantic science? Where do you think we can find it? You don't need to think far. Yes. Yes, at the universities. Okay, at the universities, much of the science will be pedantic. Basically, based on strong theories and methodology. And when it comes to value for businesses and government, they are very limited. Okay. So papers that are published in academic journals, produced by academic institutions, are likely to be pedantic science. Then category 2 is called popularist science, whereby such research is very low when it comes to theory and methodology, but it has very high practical value. Where do you think we can find this? Emphasis is placed on practice and not on theory or method. Where do you think we can find this? The what? In industry. So practitioner manuals, for instance. You take practitioner manual. The manual is meant to help you to know how to operate the machine, not how to make the machine. Okay? Not even the science behind the operation of the machine, but how do you get the machine to work? Okay? So for instance, I may not be able to manufacture a projector, but if I get the manual as to how the projector operates, I can operate it. Okay? So I don't need to know the theory or that you put this lens together, add this one in this ratio. No, I don't need that. So we call that popularist science. Then, yet we have another category we call puerile science, whereby the knowledge produced is low in both theory and methodology, and then also in terms of practical relevance. Where do you think we can find this puerile science? Where do you think we can get it? In magazines, newspapers, just stories. Somebody did this, somebody did that, stories. Okay, sometimes lies. Sensational discussions. Okay, so newspapers, broadcast media, a lot of that is puerile science. So don't take research method lessons from radio and TV discussions. They don't have much technical and value. Okay, then yet we have research work that is high when it comes to both theory and method, and then also practical relevance. Where do you think we can get this? We can get this, number one, in research work that is done between what industry and then academia. Okay, if it's a collaboration, then there will be high theoretical and methodological rigor, as well as relevance when it comes to the practice. So such collaboration can yield that. Then you also have national science and research institutions. Okay, so you have CSIR, Council for Scientific and what? Industrial Research. First, they use the theory. Then they develop an innovation. And then that innovation is now transferred to what? To industry. Then you also have National Space Station Research, like the NASA in the US. They conduct very high level research. How do we get to the moon? How do we put man in the moon? And they actually go to the moon, okay, and come back. So high level, because that one you can't make a mistake. I imagine you erroneously make your calculations, and you say that you are going to the moon. The chances of returning will be very slim. Okay, so the theory and method have to be of high precision, as well as the practice, so that when you go to the moon, you return. Okay, so even as they explore, can you imagine if after several years of research, we are still struggling to see how we can put people in the other planets. But we've not been there yet. Why? Because the science has not been perfected yet. So until the science is perfected, nobody will want to go and then stay at Jupiter or any other planet that has been rumored to exist. And some of them are bigger than the Earth, we are told. But why are we not going there? When we are getting all the land basically being sold on Earth. There is free land there, but who is going there? Who is going there? Okay, so that has to be achieved through what? Pragmatic science, which has high relevance, high rigor when it comes to methodology and practice. Now, we try to distinguish between basic and applied research. Basic and applied research. Now, when we talk about applied research, we refer to research that is conducted to solve a particular problem relating to a particular organization or government or unit. Okay? So that the concern is not about the industry. It is about a particular organization. So if I do research to support a particular bank, such that that bank can have some of its problems solved by the research, then we call that applied research. However, if the research is conducted in a general way, such that I'm not interested in a particular bank, but the banking system as a whole, so we call the banking industry, then we are dealing with what we call basic business research. So, and in that case, that research would be motivated by basically a desire to understand some business-related phenomena as it applies to an entire industry or business in general, not specifically in terms of a particular business. Okay? So you should be able to distinguish between applied and what? Basic business research. So we can give examples so that it can be clearer to you. So an example of applied research. Coca-Cola asks, why is Pepsi gaining market share in Paris? So they are thinking that something is wrong. That's why Pepsi is getting more consumers buying it compared to Coca-Cola. So that's the problem they want to resolve. Now, but if you were to look at it in terms of the industry as a whole, you ask them, why are people drinking more bottled water and less cola, for instance? Or you could even say that in the industry, why are people preferring specific drinks of a particular nation to other drinks also of a particular nature, without necessarily zeroing in on what particular firm's product? Then you are dealing with what? Basic research. So for instance, another applied research question could be, can prospective employee psychological profiles reduce turnover at McDonald's? So here you are looking at McDonald's as a case to deal with, whether you can use their psychological profiles or characteristics to predict whether when you hire them, they will stay in the organization or they will run away. Within 2 weeks, they will resign and move away. Can you predict that for that firm? That would be applied research. You can do a basic research equivalent where you are talking about what psychological factors predict reduced turnover in the service occupation. So here, the focus is not on McDonald's, but service sector businesses. Could be hotels and restaurants. It could be what? Transportation. It could also be what? Banking. In general. Okay. So then it becomes basic research. And so on and so forth. Okay. So you can critically distinguish various between the two. So I've given you some example how you can differentiate between basic research and then applied research. So in terms of purpose, for instance, the purpose of basic research would be, for instance, to expand knowledge of processes of business and management in general. And then for the applied research, improve understanding of particular business or management problem. So in other words, applied research is more specific, whereas basic research is what? Broad and general. Okay, so take note of that. So in terms of, you can also distinguish them in terms of context. For instance, basic research is usually conducted at the universities. Okay? So if you take my papers, I may be looking at sub-Saharan African countries together or developing countries. So I'm not specific when it comes to dealing with a particular company, or I may be looking at banking industry as a whole. But if I am doing applied research, then I need to pick a particular institution, organization, or country whereby I would do the research. So the context is also different. So, but usually much of the context for applied research is various. Can be done by practitioners, can be done by university lecturers, and all that. But mostly for basic research, much of it is conducted at the academic level or by the academia. Now, if you want to conduct research, what are the stages that you must pass through? So this is an introductory lesson on the research process, but we will have a full lecture based on the research process, going through all the elements in detail. The first stage in the research process is to formulate and clarify a topic. First, identify the research topic, or what we call the research problem. What is it that you want to find out? What is it that you don't know, which you think is necessary for you to know? So that is how you form your research problem, or you identify your research topic. So once you identify that, of course, I'll tell you various ways that you can identify research topic. You can identify research topic by talking to your supervisor, by reading through past dissertations, by reading through academic published journals, by going to conferences, by reading calls for papers or advertisements for people to submit papers. We call them special issue calls. Regardless of which avenue that you get your topic from, you must make sure that the topic is crisp and clear. We usually recommend that do not let the topic to have more than 15 words. Okay. In other words, the topic should not be like a paragraph. Sometimes you can see somebody's topic and it's like a paragraph. Okay. The shorter, the better. Okay. Make sure that all the important ingredients are captured, but do not let it exceed 15 words. Then you review literature. That's the stage 2. The literature here provides the basis for your work. In most cases, you will not be the first man or woman to conduct research on that topic. There are some people who have already done work and laid the foundation for you. So literature review helps you to learn from them. And based on what you have they have done, you now build your own work on that. Okay? So review literature, usually I advise in 3 realms. Number 1, review conceptual literature. Your topic contains key words. Your first task as a researcher is to identify the meaning of each of the words that are captured in the topic. It should not be the case that they would ask you about a word that is captured in your topic and you start scratching your head. Okay? So review the literature, first of all, to define the words or the terms. Understand what they mean in the literature. And then, if you want those words to mean differently in your work, then define your version of that word. Okay, so we call that the operationalization of the terminologies. So the concept may have a meaning. So for instance, in the literature, if you ask people to define what a household is some will say that a household is a group of people that eat from the same pot. In other words, there's a centralized pot in their house. Once that the food is cooked in that pot, it is served to everybody. So anybody who takes part in that centralized pot is part of the household. Then somebody will say that a household is a group of people who live in what? The same house. So there's a building called a house. Anybody who lives there is a household. But you can have one household, you can have one house, but you can have up to 10 different pots. Okay, because this one is there with the family, is there with the family, is there with the family. Sometimes in the morning, they don't even greet each other. But they sleep in what? The same house. Okay? So you can say that I am going to define my household what? Different, even though this is what how it has been defined in the literature. But for me, a household is what? A man, a wife, and the children. That's all. That's my definition. So that when people read your work, they will understand it based on what? The definition that you have provided. But they will not go and import a strange definition and come and what? Impose on it. So it's very important. So conceptualize the terminologies. Second, review the theory. What theory is explaining the issues that you want to investigate. Okay? Every good research topic must be based on theory. So as an academic, one of the worst issues that you would face is for you to present your work and somebody will tell you that your work lacks theory. Means once they say it lacks theory, it means it's not scientific. It's not based on science. So you are just building on what? Conjecture and speculation, because no theory is guiding you. Then the third part of the literature is to review what we call empirical literature. The empirical literature is just previous research work that is done on what? The topic, which is related to the issues that you are discussing. So you have to acknowledge and review all those works, understand what they have done, what they haven't done, and then based on what they have not done, you now say that that is what you now want to do. That is what we call research gap. Okay, review the literature, show what they have done, show what they have not done, which you want to do. So if at the end of your literature review, you cannot tell us what they have done, what they have not done, then you cannot tell us what you want to do. Because what you want to do must be based on what has not been done, or what has been done, but it has not been done satisfactorily. Okay, so that has to be noted. Then you talk about the research design. We have different types of research design. We can have descriptive design. We can have what we call causal comparative design. Okay. So you have to determine what type of research design am I going to use. Am I just going to do a narrative report where the individual will be asked to tell the story? So I'm just writing the story, the history. Okay, so here I'm narrating. Or that I want to show descriptive statistics, the mean, the median, the mode, the standard deviation. That's what we call descriptive research. Or I want to go beyond that and calculate advanced statistics, whereby I'm going to test for what we call statistical significance. I'm going to test hypotheses. Then you are dealing with what we call inferential statistics, which is within the realm of what we call causal design or causal comparative design. Then the next stage is to collect data. Okay? Data is very important when it comes to research work. And for that matter, the researcher needs to take time to collect data. After collecting data, you analyze the data using various methods. You can use qualitative analysis technique. You can use what? Quantitative analysis techniques, or you can mix the two. So broadly speaking, and I'm sure we have it here, the research, and I'll come to that before we close. After analyzing the data and discussing the data, you now write up the entire report, and you have a full research work that is conducted. Formulate topic, review literature, design your research, collect data, analyze, and write your report. After writing up your report, there's usually a final stage, which is this presentation and dissemination of research results. So you can publish the research in academic journals. You can publish the research in magazines. You can also go to conferences and workshops to deliver the outcome of the research. So that is a final stage, which some people don't usually do. But within the academia, we complete the whole set. Okay. So, to conduct research, finally, there are important factors that you should take into consideration. First is the impact of your personal feelings and beliefs. Is the research that you want to conduct consistent with your personal beliefs? There are some research work I will not do them because they violate my ethical values, so I will not do it. Access to data. Ask yourself, this research topic that I have proposed, can I get data on it? 3 days ago, one of my MBA students sent me 4 interesting research topics. I said, I want you to help me to choose one of them to conduct research for my dissertation. So I look at them, they look very, very interesting. I wanted to choose, but I said that no, let me find out first. So I sent a WhatsApp message. Are you sure that you can get data on all of the topics? She said, I will get back to you. Up to now, I'm still waiting for it. You understand that? I'm still waiting for her to give me her response. Because when so I asked you, how did you get the topic? She said she used artificial intelligence to generate. Artificial intelligence does not know how you can get your data. Okay? So don't fall for that. Examine your situation, your environment. Ask questions. Where can I get data on my topic? If you see that you cannot get the data, please change topic. Another student of mine wanted to do a research. The data is available, but you know what? The data, he has to pay to get the data, about $300 and something when he came. So he came back and told me that he can get the data, but the problem is that the data is what? Expensive. And I also think that he should get the data. So what do we do? So he's still battling with it, whether he should change the topic or he has to do so, look for a loan to get the data. So one of the most important issues to consider when you are drafting your topic is the availability of data. Suppose you come out with a topic that requires that you go and interview President Akufo-Addo. How are you going to get him to interview? You can only watch him on TV. That's all. You can't get him to interview. So be very careful. Time and resources also, and other resources that are necessary. Look at the time you have to spend on the program or for the research. So MSc, we say, is 1 year. So don't go and choose a topic that will take you 2 years or 3 years to complete. So we usually say that when you are drafting your research objectives can be 2 or 3, but not 4. Make sure that you don't come out with 4 research topics or 4 research questions or research objectives so that you can finish in good time. Make sure that the data you are using is valid and reliable. So we usually advise that use data available at the, say, Ghana Statistical Service, Bank of Ghana, World Bank, IMF, and there are other commercial data sources that produce valid data. So if the data is not reliable, your work is likely to be rejected. So I usually encourage that students should use secondary data. If you want primary research, that's fine. But because of the time constraints, you are better off using secondary data. In other words, data that has been collected already for a different purpose, but you have seen that it contains elements that you can use for your own work. Go and use it. That way you cut away a lot of time and then also a lot of resources that can help you to advance very quickly. But if you still want to collect primary data, no problem. We'll guide you to do that. Then there are ethical issues. When you are conducting research, the privacy of the respondents has to be protected. So we say you must ensure anonymity. You should not also force the respondents to answer the questions or to participate in the research. They must participate in the research voluntarily, not against their will, except the research is a census. Census is compulsory. It is backed by law. And when you refuse to participate, you can even be convicted. Or when you give false statements, you can be convicted. Okay. So apart from that, all other research is likely to be voluntary. So don't force people to participate in research against their will. So what we have just done, these are questions that cover them. Usually what I do is that at the end of each lecture, there are questions to test your understanding of the lecture. If you can answer all the questions, hooray. If you cannot answer them, then you have to go back and what? And read the slides. So this is our introductory lecture. If you have any question, let me receive them and answer them before we go for the snack break. Any question? So I would share the slides as well as the course outline on the general platform so that you can all have access to them. So part of the slides we have used for today, we are going to continue with that tomorrow. So if I go to the next page, you'll see that that is what we'll be doing tomorrow. Okay, we'll now go into the philosophy of research. Today we looked at the nature of business research, but there's a philosophy behind business research and research in general. That is what we'll look at tomorrow, God willing. Okay. So from here, what you do is to go and have, they are not here, right? So you have your snack. They've not, they are outside, right? Yeah. The corridor. So when you just walk out straight, okay, you would find it at the left. So you take your snack. The next set of lectures are likely to be departmental based. So if you are not sure of the venue, you can ask your HOD. They will show you that all the venues are located within this building. So even if you move from door to door, you finally find where you should be. So some of them would be in this half of the block. Others will be in the other half, where the School of Business offices are located. Okay. So if you take this block, we have the lecture halls lined up this way. This way at the top is for the graduate school at the top. At the down there, the offices immediately down are for the Institute of Distance Learning and Continuous what? Education. Then the offices that are behind, that's the administration for the School of Business, where you have HOD offices, and then what? The offices for the dean, the vice dean, and then the school officer. And we also have our conference room there, where some of you will have lectures there as well. So thank you very much for coming, and enjoy the rest of the day.